Going live right now. Hey everybody, what's going on? Brother John here, just for a spur of the moment hangout. Empire is Unraveling, and we got in our midst, we got D. Smith, we have Floyd
Hello.
FP, hey, Lindsay Lou, and Shadow Heathen. What's up, guys? I'm glad you stopped by. Man, I've seen some of the latest numbers of the unemployment or full-time unemployment. We're looking at a number realistically about 90 million people that are part-time or not employed.
That's roughly a
Uh,
third of the country.
yeah, exactly.
We only have, what, 312 million or something like that?
Yeah, like 310, 312. And how many of those are children that are,
Well, they
not
don't.
of age to be in the workforce?
Well,
So,
that's because everyone needs to start a crappy gaming channel and get Patreon.
Hmm.
Make more money doing that than most jobs these days. It seems it's sad. One the other day that was making 23 grand a month just doing a gaming channel.
really?
Yeah.
Through what, Patreon?
Yeah, Drunken Peasants are doing about 7,500 per episode.
Oh, good grief.
Or per month, rather. Sorry.
Why the heck could anybody pay the drunken peasants?
How do they actually make money? I really don't get it.
Advertising and
Well,
Well,
pretty
they
much
charge.
companies
we're
buy
talking
stuff.
just Patreon. We're talking people that are like, "Oh, I like your show. I'll give you some money every month."
Oh, this is
Right,
just
they'll-
Patreon?
Yeah, I get a whole $26 through Patreon a month. Ooh.
Yeah, what some people will donate, maybe commit to a monthly thing. It could be a low as a dollar, but then usually people offer extra perks if you raise that amount. Maybe you'll get a private hangout or whatever, whatever they offer.
Yeah, but in
And
the case of the peasants, they have like 11,000 people give. Sorry, 1,100 people rather that are donating to them. So on a monthly basis. I mean, on some levels it's kind of impressive, and it's like, wow, good for you guys. On another level, it's like, holy crap, you don't need a day job anymore, do you?
hey, it's all good.
Yeah. Apparently, the people that are working are more than happy to spread the wealth. So at least we have that going on.
Hmm. I'm getting a little echo.
Now, let me adjust.
Yeah, there's okay. Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's certainly opportunities out there to take them. I don't particularly like their show, but they have an audience and they're willing to contribute to see it go on, and good for them. Capitalism's working for them.
Yeah,
Is that
living
capitalism, though? I mean, is there some sort of real product that they're giving?
entertainment.
Oh,
I
There's some
suppose.
physical commodity, besides
Well,
entertainment. This is just
no,
entertainment.
the thing is, it's not a physical commodity. If you look at the way things are structured right now, people pay more money for entertainment than anything else.
Mhm.
If you look at how people tend to spend their money, people are desperate for something to entertain them because we are like short attention span theater nation of bored people that want silver bullet fixes for everything. And the expectations of the American people seem to have really bottomed out over the last decade or so.
But it is also living proof.
That isn't
As I
necessarily
said,
a brag on them, but I mean, you look at things like customer service, for example. Our expectations of things like customer service and this kind of stuff have gone through the floor, and the companies are just bilking it. I mean, we'll sit there and you try to get support for whatever, and you're talking with somebody in some other country that's being paid dirt more often than not that they've outsourced to. And you get crappy service, and then you thank them for it because we've gotten so used to crappy service that we've come to not only expect it, but accept it.
I personally don't
Sure.
accept crappy service, especially if I go to a place to eat. I'm going to sit down and eat. I really do expect good service. I think if you're going to be in that job, especially when you are relying on tips, that you have to put your personal issues to the side and put your best face forward and give good service. And that's something I expect, something I would do.
Yeah, but the things
Yeah.
this is more like, when you try to call a help center for whatever product you've bought or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you just tend to get crap service, and the most of us seem to just accept it these days. And one thing is, let's reference things like, seeing as it's relevant to me at the moment, medical treatment, because this is going to be my current bitch box for a little bit of a while, because I just had my stroke the other day, and I'm sitting there, I have an arm that's not working, and I am diabetic, and it's like, well, we do have the special pantry for diabetics for food that's good, that's safe for them, and we have peanut butter crackers. I'm like, oh, well, that sounds nice. Well, the crackers are so freaking stale that there's no way to actually chew the damn things. You have to suck on them until they get soft enough. That's pointless. And the peanut butter is in one of these containers that you have to tear open, and I'm like, yeah, I'm missing use of an arm here. I don't have any teeth in my head, and you're bringing me crackers that I can't possibly chew and this peanut butter that I can't open. I'm going to die of a diabetic, coma here. The fuck?
Wow, it's crazy.
I mean, people just don't think. I mean, there was a time ages ago that I was signed up with one internet provider, and I hit financial hard times, couldn't actually pay for it for a bit, and then they're sitting there telling me, well, gee, we're going to keep billing you even though we've cut off your service. And on top of that, the only way to cancel it is by going online to cancel it. And I'm like, wait a minute, if you won't let me get online to cancel it, how the fuck do I cancel it? We'll just keep billing you. Have a nice day. What?
Shit.
Wow.
Then you call support and they
Crazy.
say, oh, we'll just log on. I'm like, what? Think for a minute, people.
Guess you have to go to the library.
I mean, you sit there, you set up an appointment for your GP, your doctor. And it's like, it's for such and such time, and then they see you like 3 hours later. And we accept this, and we put up with it because it's like we don't have any fucking choice. So, I mean, I went down to the ER for when I had the stroke, and they sit there and they do the initial scan thing, and then they sit me in a room for 5 hours. Well, we have a room set aside for you. It's just a matter of getting the other person out of it and opening up the room. We'll have you up there in a few minutes. It should be open in a few minutes. 5 hours later, still sitting in the same room. And at this point, I go to say something to them, and I'm pissed off enough to strangle them, pissed off enough that my arm, which hadn't been responding for hours, so I'm like, the desire to strangle them was enough incentive for me to start moving the arm. So I guess at least there's that. So then,
Is this hospital in a big city?
Yeah, it's a big hospital, big city.
Okay.
It's Big Baylor in Dallas. Huge hospital, and you go down there, you at the beginning of the morning, it's like, hi, I'm going to be your doctor today, and and 12 hours go by, and you still haven't seen or heard anything. Nobody's told you if there's anything on your case, and they want you to stay there. So this goes on for basically a day and a half, and I'm like, I'm leaving. And of course, the response is, well, if you leave AMA against medical orders, then against medical advice rather, then your insurance isn't going to pay for it. I'm like, yeah, that's something you should leave in mind if I'm going to leave, isn't it? That you won't get paid.
Mm.
So then I get let out. But yeah, it's like, yeah, we can do this outpatient. There's no point in me staying here for 2 days while you wait for somebody to read the fucking results. And that's the thing is, they want you to just sit there for 2 frickin' days while they bilk your insurance. In my case, federal insurance. Well, waiting for somebody to actually take the time to sit down and take a look at the charts and shit.
Crazy.
Yeah, hospital care, it's tough in the cities. When I was in New York City, yeah, if you went to the emergency room, yeah, you were there for hours.
Oh yeah,
And hours.
Yeah,
and I'm fortunate over here. I mean, it's not desolate. It's decent sized area in PA. But we went to the emergency room the other day. Like I said, I took my mother. Nobody was in the emergency room.
I mean,
they took her right in. I was in and we were in and out in like 2 hours.
Yeah, but more often than not, especially for something serious, they just make you sit there and wait and wait and wait. And the amount and kind of treatment you get is completely based upon what coverage you have. If your coverage is going to cover you for 3 days, they're going to try to keep your ass there for 3 days. In terms of the room thing, at least. And that's kind of what I was dealing with to a degree. It's like, yeah, well, it covers for X number of days. They're going to try and keep me here for that long. And in the meantime, the doctors aren't doing dick. But I'm going to tell you, the moment that the insurance wasn't going to be covering for a room, they'd be rushing their ass to get me the fuck out of there. This is just how it goes now. And as a culture, we accept it for some fucked up reason because, well, what are we going to do about it?
Speaking of healthcare, go ahead, Dee.
I was just say, whereas here in the UK, they want to get you out as soon as possible.
Well, yeah, because everybody has the same fucking coverage there. They just want to get you in and out.
Yeah.
And we bitch about federal health care and this whole notion over here, but at the same point, they don't have the same incentive to try and bilk the system.
Well, yeah, precisely.
Because everyone's got the same thing, so everyone's equal in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
I brought this up the other day. What I'm seeing in my area, and I don't know about elsewhere, specifically in the States, though. I'm seeing an explosion of medical centers and offices opening up. They're just going up one after the other. Now, I understand we were a baby boomer generation, is getting up there in age, and that's a very large segment of the population. But I think at the same time, and I think there's going to be a bubble here. This is just there's a taking of advantage, I think, is going to be of the system, since we have this affordable health care and the government is guaranteeing payment. Hey, good business to get into is the healthcare business. If the government's going to guarantee, payments, but we see what happens, when they do that. We had the housing crisis. Now probably student loans is going to be probably one of the immediate bubbles, and right behind that, I think, will be healthcare.
Well, I honestly, I'm not sure in terms of that. I mean, we are certainly going to have a problem, but part of the problem, I think, is, so to speak, not just facilities like this trying to basically milk the system, saying if it covers for X number of days, we're going to have you here for X number of days, that kind of thing. But there's a certain part on people that are the customers, so to speak, of these places, and they don't even treat you like you're a customer and this and that. They take away a lot of your choices, kind of the way it feels. But I think part of the result of this is you have a lot of people that just don't take any fiscal responsibility in this kind of crap.
You're killing me there, freaking Sid.
Yeah. There's a certain level of people taking advantage of the system. A friend of mine works in EMS, and he gets calls from people all the time that essentially just want a very expensive taxi ride.
Crazy, isn't it? Absolutely.
They don't necessarily have much of a way to get there. So, and for non-emergency stuff, it's like, oh, we'll just call the ambulance and take a ride for however much money the ambulance costs, and that's just passed off to whatever government programs funding it, Medicaid, Medicare, whatever. And these people, they're not thinking, well, there are other ways it can potentially get there. They're just like, yeah, just call. It's okay if the government has to pay, $300-400 for the ride up the street down 2 blocks.
Yeah. I don't know. It beggars belief that your country doesn't have a national health system.
No checks
I
and
think
balances.
about like one of the only. Yeah, I think you're one of the only Western countries that's like that.
Perfect man for this conversation. We got Jeff.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Here's Jeff to tell me that a national health system is disgusting. Well, but no, I don't think you'd use the word disgusting necessarily.
Jeff, I was talking about possibly a possible bubble going on in the healthcare arena in the years to come. Got medical facilities just popping up all over the place, and I understand with a baby booming population, but I think they want to take advantage of the system, and I think it's gonna break it at that point.
Yeah, well, I think you're correct. Anytime there's a distortion in the market that's created by external forces like the state, it could very well create a bubble situation.
Dee, you're in the UK?
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of numbers are they telling you over there as far as unemployment, and is it does it correspond to reality as you see it?
Yeah, our employment's actually gone down recently. I think it's about 5 or 6%. Unemployment's about 5 or 6% at the moment. So it's the lowest it's been for a couple of years.
Do you think those numbers are realistic, though? I mean, we get those same kind of numbers here,
Yeah.
but
So
the
I
real
wouldn't
numbers, like I shared before, they're saying 90 million out of a population of like 310 are like part-time or unemployed, and you're looking at like a 20% unemployment rate easily there.
I
So
believe
I don't.
apparently there's about 2 million unemployed, I think, last time I...
It has changed the way unemployed are counted here.
Yeah.
They
That's just exactly what I was going to say, actually,
Right.
here, that what I think here in the UK, sorry, Jeff, I'll just interrupt you completely
Sure.
and say what you're
No
going to
problem.
say, but about my country instead. I mean,
Go
over
ahead.
here, unless they've improved it, over here, basically, if you're unemployed, it means you're claiming what's known as unemployment benefit.
Right.
There are other people who are on disability, or they're
People who have given up on looking.
or
Yeah.
they're on other benefits, basically, or not claiming anything. I mean, I would say technically I'd be classed as unemployed, but that is through choice, and I'm fortunate to be able to be in that situation without claiming any benefits. So, but I suppose that's not really fair to blame the government for me being unemployed.
Well, one thing that they do
Well-
over there, at least, is if you apply for a job over there, they give preference to actual citizens. We don't seem to do that here.
Jeff, what were you saying?
Well, there's the idea of voluntary unemployment. So some people don't want to be employed, and they shouldn't. But it's people who, in a market system, anybody who wants to be employed should be employable. People who want to work and all that. So yeah, you wouldn't want to include people who, you wouldn't want to include Mother Teresa. Some people want to be voluntarily out of the job market. That's fine. But you know, the question is, for those who do want to work, what are their opportunities and what are the barriers to their being employed? And there are lots of them.
Yeah. It's so I mean, I think we have two. If you're unemployed, there are two. When you initially, if you're like made redundant, or if you lose your job and it's your own fault, the unemployment benefits harass you basically for a while before they pay up. But
Right.
basically, you get unemployment benefit for a specific amount of time, and it's because you've paid into the national insurance that we pay here.
Right. That's the way it works
After
here
that,
too.
yeah, after that it becomes what's known as Social Security.
Right.
And from what I understand, and I could be mistaken, maybe it's changed, but from what I understand, people on Social Security aren't included in the unemployment numbers. And the vast majority of people on benefits are on Social Security.
Same
Because
here.
they
They're not including those numbers as well. People on Social Security, and probably who have to definitely cannot survive on if that's the only payment they're getting.
Yeah, I think unemployment benefits 6 months or a year. I can't remember offhand.
I think the bar here might be a little higher for Social Security. You don't just automatically roll over from unemployment to Social Security. Social Security has to do with disabilities and age. So I don't.
Right.
I don't think it's a. Based on what you've said, and I don't know what your system is, but I don't think it's quite as smooth a rollover.
Yeah, I'm going to have to bounce.
I mean, okay, take care, darling.
Take care, Shadow. Be well, man.
See you, Shadow.
Heal quickly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, here in the UK, I think it's reasonably easy, but you do have to. I mean, like if you're on Social Security benefits, you do have to provide them evidence that you've looked for a job. Otherwise, they'll call you in and start questioning you. I think you have to sort of show rejection letters or
That's done here as well.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I can't remember how much it is offhand.
Not
Social
under
Security.
Social Security. unemployment
Yeah,
is that way. I'm sorry.
oh right.
Yeah.
Oh no, on unemployment, I don't think you have to do anything here. It's basically the money you've paid in, you're entitled to it. So once you get onto Social Security, they'll start. I wouldn't go as far as to say harassing, but they will be like, we want proof you're looking for a job. Don't think you can just sit at home and do jack. I suppose I mean, obviously, if you're disabled, but that's a different benefit anyway, usually.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's like over there, but you will, like, once you're on benefits, you're, unless you've got exceptionally high rent, you get your rent paid, you get your, it's not called poll tax anymore, council tax paid, you do get certain things paid as well.
Mm-hmm.
The amount you get is enough if you're unemployed for a short while and you don't have to buy new shoes or a new coat, or you don't have to replace anything that breaks down in your kitchen. It's enough to get by on.
Mm-hmm.
But if you need, and I don't mean want, I mean need new stuff. I mean, if you want new stuff, that's just tough. That's the way it is. But if you need new stuff, like maybe your winter coat is absolutely threadbare. But then again, we do have a lot of charity shops, which is where certainly when I was unemployed, I got a lot of I still do now, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's.
Yeah, we have Salvation Army and thrift shops like that in the U.S.
Yeah, I think thrift shop's the same thing, I think, from what I understand. Yeah, but I do get the impression from what I've heard, it is not as bad over here to be unemployed as it can be in America, especially because you only get it for a certain amount of time or something.
I'll test to that.
Or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've extended benefits. Some people get unemployment here, I think, for like 99 weeks even at one point.
Yeah.
But sometimes it drops the incentive to go look for a job because the job's what they're paying. It's more money. You're better off collecting the unemployment.
Dude,
Not true.
99 weeks sounds pretty awesome, dude.
Not
Yeah.
true. Not
Yeah.
true.
It
It's not
It
more.
was
There's
real.
it's called, the problem is called a moral hazard problem.
What happened to me was that it was the job search was becoming impossible, and the unemployment, I was on extended, and just as they were telling me that I was going to get another extension, they turned around and dropped everybody. They changed their mind. They took away the third extension, or second extension, I should say, and it threw me into an impossible situation, and I had to go apply for welfare, which they barely gave me, and I'm not even getting any money. I can't buy myself a comparison because I've been here for five years now, and et cetera, so forth and so on. You fall into the cracks here, and I'm one of those people that fell into the cracks. Fortunately for me, I happened to be living in a place which I became by chances, I became the caregiver of my elderly parents. So I happen to be living here. Otherwise, I'd be out in the gutter. And they make it impossible for me to even. I mean, I lost my car and everything, so I don't have anything anymore. I'm lucky to still have this computer that I bought when I was working. And I'm trying to keep this one working because it's what I'm doing now.
Yeah, it's tough.
And I think as well, if there are cases where you can be better off claiming benefits than working, I think that says a lot to the fact of the poor wages that some jobs offer. Quite frankly, that's a bit.
You look for a job, and they actually put you into this room, and you got to fill out these things and everything. But even they'll sit there and tell you, well, yeah, you have to fill this out, but we know that there's not available. It's one of those things. I had to fill out the form of what they call it, Med 5, which claims that I am taking care of elderly people, and I'm not getting anything for that. It's sickening. I'm justifiably depressed over the whole thing.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think you do get what's known as a carer's allowance here, but I don't know how much it is.
Pat, what kind of skill sets do you have? For possible employment.
I don't know anymore. I can't explain it over a live broadcast.
No, I hear you. Well, I mean, I would encourage you, if there's something you are, you have an interest or a passion, look in there and develop your skill set, and If you
I
can, if you can create some kind of your own little small business,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. I started to try to think about that, but I'm bad at that too. But I'm gonna say I'm gonna take a chance over a live broadcast, and I'm gonna tell you that I think I've been blacklisted.
Okay.
Bugger.
All right. We can discuss that another time. Speaking of entitlements, do you guys feel? I mean, I'm certainly not in my 20s, but it seems that that generation of today, the 20s, are a generation of entitlement. Um, uh, and really, I'm not so enthused about taking some of these, service jobs that are only paying minimum, you know.
Well,
Um,
look at the job market
I think.
that kids have nowadays, and then look at the job market that people that are your age, or I'm like in the lower bracket of your guys' generation, but just think of the job markets.
Mm.
We had a lot more manufacturing, a lot more.
Well, try
Same
to
here.
take away the Social Security check of somebody who's 75 or 80, and you'll see that it's not it's not confined to the younger generation. Or try to take away a student loan from somebody, or any number of these things. The government has bought off people in every demographic.
Yeah.
Social
I mean,
Security is
I,
something
I,
you
I,
pay into. Social Security is something you're paying. It's an insurance. It's SSI.
No, that's bullshit. No, that's what we're told, but it's
No, it's not what you're told. You look at your paycheck. SSI is an insurance.
no, they're taking the money out of your paycheck, absolutely. But it's going to pay towards the people in the current generation. If you die, you don't have that account that you can bequeath it to somebody else. That's a direct transfer to somebody else. And actually, the Supreme Court has ruled that they can't even call it an insurance scheme anymore. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's basically younger people are paying for the retirement benefits of older people, and some younger people have wisened up to the fact that they're not going to get the benefits of this scheme because the demographics are not in their favor.
I'm 55 years old and I'm fighting to collect it because I have no other choice anymore, and I'm not going to.
There's nothing to collect. What was taken from you was given to retired people of your generation, and the only thing that
My generation? Excuse me?
No, I'm sorry, of future generations, of older generations. So yes, you should be outraged, but not at me. I'm just
I'm not saying at you. I'm saying Social Security is an insurance that comes out of your paychecks as you work throughout the.
No, it's a deduction from your paycheck, but it goes directly to somebody else.
I don't care where it goes directly to. It is posted as an insurance.
There's no account for you. No, it's fraud. It's a pyramid scheme, and you should be outraged. But it's a pyramid scheme. It's not. There's no account for you. If future generations don't want to pay for your retirement, you're not going to get squat.
I agree, Jeff. I agree with you, dude.
Yeah, and look, you have this huge baby booming generation they're coming of age. So every year, more and more, and there's no one on the other end to eventually
pay into
support this Social Security system. I'm getting near 50, and I certainly don't expect it to be there, though. I put into the system. They send me a statement of how much I'm going to get every month, but yeah, I'll see when I get it, and I'm going to prepare, on my end. Meanwhile, because,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll get it, but it'll be so inflated it won't be worth anything.
Yeah, dude.
Exactly.
It's going to be a horror story either way, dude. I've heard so many horror stories about that, old people with their checks and stuff. And all.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but basically when Social Security began, it was like 6-to-1. There were 6 workers for every retired person. And now it's going to be like 2-to-1. And do you think that's going to go on forever? They're going to have to either inflate the currency. It's just mathematically not possible. It was a huge lie, and a lot was stolen from you, and it's a horrible injustice, and it's not just a bunch of libertarians malcontents. This is a crime of mammoth proportions.
I think the libertarians are the modern day prophets.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wish we had better news, but no, this is horrible. What's been done? It's organized crime writ large.
Now I hear in a couple of years, a lot of the bonds are going to be maturing. The stuff that China and India have been buying from, tail end of the other last crash, and this is going to spell out really bad news for economy when these the bonds mature. And I'm hearing that also. I mean, Federal Reserve probably in a matter of at the same time a couple of years will have no choice but to raise interest rates. Uh, this is going to be a disaster.
Well, yeah, and the problem is the debt is so large that the U.S. government can't afford to pay high rates on the debt. That's one of the reasons why it's been held so low. Yeah, we're in for a shitstorm. It's not going to be pretty.
One of the reasons why they had to cut back on that quantitative easing because that the higher payment they foresee it that's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's going to be really really bad news. And if China and Japan and the only reason the U.S. has been allowed to inflate as much as they have been is because since Bretton Woods, a lot of nation states have been using the dollar as the world's currency, and they don't want to divest suddenly. If they did so, they would actually devalue the dollar. So we're in this real house of cards, horrible situation that never would have happened under hard money. But this, this insane Keynesian economic paradigm has led us to this precipice where. I mean, I hope it's not as bad as I think it's going to be, but I don't really see how it can be otherwise. Just using mathematics, not ideology or anything like that. It's just you can't counterfeit a currency forever and have it hold its value.
Jeff, as far as a percentage-wise, say in the States, what percentage do you think of people here in America are prepared or preparing themselves for, a collapse?
Probably very small percentage. I don't know, in the single digits, I would assume. Most the economic incentives have been to borrow inflation does this. So inflation says your dollars aren't going to be worth as much tomorrow as they are today. So buy stuff today and enjoy yourself. So I think most people have acted on those economic incentives, and it actually takes a lot to not do that. Nobody. There are a few people, but mostly what we see are people responding to the economic incentives as we would expect them to. If the dollar is going down in value, people are borrowing more and getting more in debt, and that's kind of what's happened. So you won't see probably too many people. Most people will be caught flat-footed in this collapse, as they have been already.
Yeah, and with not much money coming in, and if you're living off your credit cards, and boy, man, talk about loan sharking, what some of these credit cards are charging.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sooner or later, you're going to run out of credit. You're going to max it out, default, and yeah, I think. Yeah.
On a slightly different note, I was reading a comment somewhere, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but the impression I got from this comment is that when you take out student loans in America, the interest rate's higher than normal loans.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Probably the interest rates on homeowner loans are pretty low, but yeah, the student loans are another example of the government creating a problem and then being the so-called solution to that problem. But people used to work part-time jobs, and they were able to finance their education. And it was only because when you have student loans, when you have really easy credit and money, yes, people can get loans easily, but it drives the demand and the price up. So the problem is you've had all these loans, and everybody can go to college and study, Mideastern philosophy or whatever, and have this perception of this being cheap and an easy way at a job. And this is the problem. The market has not been able to regulate this because you've had this manipulation of money and credit, and that drives demand up. It's made education so expensive, and it's the same with healthcare, and it's very much the same thing. Where
How
the
is
more
that
you
the government?
subsidize something,
How is getting easy credit the government's fault?
because the government's responsible for money and credit. The government controls the prime rate. The government lends money to the banks, and that in a free market that should not be the case.
Really? I mean, the banks create far more money than the government does.
They couldn't do it without the government. They couldn't do it without fractional reserve.
Yeah, it's the
banking.
bond market, dude.
They would do it all without the government.
Let's try to do one at a time. Let each other finish their thought.
They would have done it a lot longer without the government. I mean, they would have been doing it for more and for longer without regulation. Banks have always wanted to create money.
Money and credit are in the province of the government in the U.S. and in most Western countries. Money and credit and interest rates are relegated not by the market but by fiat, in the U.S. By the Fed chairman and the Fed governors.
That wasn't the question I asked you.
This would not happen in a free market economy at all.
That wasn't the question.
Anyway, I'm going to toodles
What was
for
the
now.
question? Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Rephrase the question.
The question was, this easy credit that you're blaming for the increase in the price in education.
Right.
Okay, you're saying it's
Yes.
the government's fault that the banks have been giving easy credit.
Yes, there's Sally Mae. There's the federal government.
It's not the government's fault. It's the bank's fault. The banks are controlling the government.
Pat, hold on, Patrick.
No.
Go ahead.
So in which way does the government control the amount of money that the banks create?
Well, the government guarantees that the banks will be paid for these loans. So
that
I agree. I agree. It's an
Right.
unholy alliance, but without the government doing this, these loans would not be profitable. There would be it would be the same as home loans used to be when before you had Freddie and Fannie guaranteeing home loans. It was a requirement that if you were to buy a house, you would have to put like 20% down because you would need to have skin in the game, and it would actually be pretty hard for the average person to get their first home loan, as it should be, because you were a credit risk. But when the government guarantees payment of these things, this distorts the market tremendously. And if the government, if I'm a bank and the government says, well, go ahead and loan them money, we'll pay you either way, then that
Right.
creates, that inflates the market. That's a moral hazard problem.
Sure. So if the banks were guaranteed the money, then how did Lehman's go down? I mean, Lehman's was allowed to fail, yeah? We can agree that.
Yeah, they all should have failed. All of them should have been allowed to fail.
Sure, because they were creating beyond their capital base, right?
But it was partly because of the government that this was happening. The government was backing these loans. But you're right, Lehman should have been allowed to fail. General Motors should have been allowed to fail. None of these places should have been bailed out. Of course not.
Right.
Okay.
Many people were given loans that were, and under any other situation for a home, they would have not, been credible. No down payment, no income verification, these kinds of things because of the government guaranteeing these loans. So.
Right, and so really high risk people who shouldn't have been entering into these arrangements anyway, that they were being backed up by the government, and the banks, of course, they're going to go along with this, and they're not
guaranteed loans. I mean, Lehman was allowed to fail.
Lehman was the only one that was allowed to fail. Mysteriously, they didn't have apparently the same lobbying presence that the other ones had. Lehman was a curiosity, but yes, it should have failed. The other ones should have too. All of them, all of them, or they should have gone into bankruptcy or whatever it should have taken for them to none of them should have been bailed out for these horrible decisions, even though I would argue that some of these horrible decisions were, they're made less perceptively horrible because of the manipulation of money and credit by the Fed, but nonetheless they should have gone out of business, and other people who made better decisions most small banks and financial institutions in the U.S. didn't make nearly the same level of really bad decisions as these big players did, and they would have stayed. They would have gotten the resources from these big companies, and they should have absolutely been allowed to fail. So
for one thing, to start with, okay, I don't have the specific knowledge of how banks work and stuff, but for one thing, the education should not cost so much money to begin with, and like you were mentioning before about how much interest are on the student loan versus any other kind of loan. That is a scheme from the banks, not from the government. The banks made it very easy. At the same time, they charged immense amount of interest for student loans, which where is the government's fault is that the student himself or herself should not have to pay thousands of dollars to get into a school when educating people should be on the top priority of the government in the first place to bring the whole society out of stupidity.
No, I think you have it actually backwards.
No, I'm not finished. What I'm trying to point out, I'm putting it in a very quick way as I can, and I may be oversimplifying a lot of things just because otherwise I won't be able to get to say much. The point I'm trying to make here is that it's like the students that do manage to get there and do manage to go through the school and do manage to become the profession that they went to school for are in debt for a decade or more because of the student loan that they went there in the first place for. There's a lot of other countries out there that are given educations without this high, huge cost of going there in the first place.
Well, that may be, we can talk about each individual country, but nothing that people want or value should be unaffordable. So in a market system, if something is in demand, it will be affordable. So if people want education, whether it's lower education or higher education, the way that people make money is by making it affordable. So people who sold large screen TVs a decade ago, they were very expensive. So it cost $60,000 or $70,000 to get a 60-inch TV in somebody's house, and why did the prices come down? It wasn't because manufacturers wanted to make less money. It was because in order to sell a product, you have to drive the unit cost down, and you have to make it affordable to a large number of people. So initially, very rich people bought big TVs, and now people who are of modest means, if they save, they can buy a nice TV as well.
But you're being off the subject.
This is hold on, I'm almost done. This is how economics works. It's things don't have to be chronically expensive, and if there's any industry that is continually producing something that most people can't afford, then you have to ask yourself.
I was talking about the educational portion of it.
Well, I'm not talking. You're talking about the
rich people are getting richer because they can afford to send kids to their kids to the education, and this is where the rift between classes start to form.
But this is new.
Because there are people who could afford to go to school and go and get a good education, and then there's the people who have to try and get a loan just to go to school, and some of them don't end up actually finishing because they're bogged down with trying to get part-time jobs and stuff just to pay for their school.
But this is fairly recent. Normally, a middle-class person could work extra hours and go to a decent school. And why has that changed? The reason is because of the manipulation of money and credit. It's because of student loans and things like that. brought by the government
How relatively
that have accelerated the demand for
How
those
relatively
business
recent are you
services.
talking about? I'm talking 30 years ago.
Yeah, I'm talking about 30, 40 years. Yeah, over the last 30, 40 years, education has become something that people could no longer afford, and now the government has these student loans, and what that does is that this sort of solution has ended up making it more expensive because it raises the demand, because everybody can get these student loans and everybody can apply for it and be accepted, except that you have to pay for it for the rest of your life in some cases. But that drives the price of it up because there's more people in demand. There's more people chasing these fewer dollars. It's about supply and demand. It's a very fundamental problem, and this is the real tragedy, is that nobody gets this. And it's like everybody wants to get bogged down. Well, education is so important. No, that's not the issue. The issue is if you get the government doing pouring money into these things, it just raises the prices and causes the problems that you decry.
Amen.
So,
yeah, I think Pat's looking at education as a right, and I don't see it like that. I don't think that just because you're alive means you need to be educated.
Right, and just because something is a good idea or nice doesn't mean it's a right. It's
maybe not as a right. I would like to respond because my name was actually mentioned.
Okay.
Go ahead, Pat.
Maybe not so much as a right, although I guess you might think of it that way. More as a priority for a viable society, that people should be educated. That's why we had the public school system in the first place. There's some states that are actually advocating instead of the ending of high school, in other words, making up to a certain education mandatory.
No reason why it has to be a boondoggle just because it's a good idea.
Go ahead, Pat. Yeah, let him finish. Well, Pat, finish, and I do want to say something.
I'm just saying that they're actually thinking about making up to high school and maybe even a grade after as a mandatory, rather than the grammar school that's now as junior high. That's mandatory now. They're actually thinking of extending that, which I think is a good idea. And this is a public school system.
The other thing is we need to totally reform. I see part of the problem is we have an education system that's stuck in the industrial age. We have a problem with the unions as well, which doesn't kind of ties our hands in making education affordable. I mean, with the technology we have now, the internet. A lot of people could be self-taught in many things. They have different kinds of programs now. You see in some of these charter schools that with the technology can cater to students individually and how they learn, because people learn in different ways. More can hear more audibly, more visually, and the old education system is just it's always been stuck. Again, in the industrial age, trying to teach everybody the same way. So, yeah, a revamping can definitely make it more affordable, I think,
I agree
and more proficient.
I agree. I mean, the old school system is rotting, especially when the religion starts getting injected into it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Jeff and Lyrics wanted to say something, but they stepped off for a second. Meanwhile, I'll say hi, Tommy. Welcome.
Sí, señor. Sí, amigo. Thank you for your hospitality, Brother John.
Thomas, what's up?
Yes. We're talking about the Empire Is Unraveling. America is
utterly depressing. Couldn't you find something more depressing to examine and just roll around?
I know. Some people don't want to deal with reality.
I know, man. Reality sucks.
Just want to numb their brain with games and drugs and Google Hangouts.
Yes.
Talk about dealing with reality. We've been dealing with the fallen empire for a few hundred years now.
Yeah, I wanted to, sort of playfully mention that I for many years, even decades, I've been thinking, empires do fall, and sometimes it's just there's no stopping it. The entropy will find its way. And I always said, I don't want you to take this word too literally, but I've always said there's got to be some kind of revolution. And I don't mean in a violent or anything way. I mean in a positive way, some kind of revolutionized way of doing things. Like I guess Brother John was mentioning about how the school system needs to be revamped. That's the sort of revolution I'm talking about. I'm not talking about anything violent or anything like that.
Yeah, but you have to get people out of the mindset of they have so much reliance that the nanny system, that the government's going to take care of them. So, when the politicians make the promises and tell the people what they want to hear and string them along, well, they keep going, they keep voting party line, and they keep the system propped.
Right.
You have the illusion
because of lack of education.
So listen, we don't have the soup lines out the door like it did in the 20s. It's all hidden now. People are not seeing the poverty to be, I guess, outraged. So I think when the food starts, when you're not able to get the food, and you can't put food on the table, or you're at the point of possibly being homeless, if this happens on a mass scale in a considerably short amount of time, then probably revolution would happen.
So what if the revolution isn't some new kind of top-down educational system? Because most of education has become more and more top-down. It's become more centralized. It's become more one-size-fits-all. And what if the revolution isn't Patrick or Jeff or somebody else has some other great plan about how education should be for everybody? What if education should be decentralized and different from everybody and not controlled by the state or a few elites with the so-called best ideas? What if we're all kind of different, and what if our learning processes aren't unique in many ways? Why shouldn't that be part of the revolution? Why shouldn't why are we to just come up with another sort of centralized top-down plan for everybody? Why can't it be individualized and voluntary instead of coercive and top-down?
Patrick?
I didn't say I had all the answers. I just said that we are, all of us, talking the symptoms.
Well,
there is a problem. There is a problem in the education system. There is a problem with, in other words, you were talking about the politicians, feeding the people what they want to hear. This is because the politicians being voted for by the people who were uneducated from the decades before, falling education system, etc. It's a big circle. It's a catch-22. If the education system was better to begin with, if people didn't have to pay thousands of dollars and go into debt just to be educated, you would have smarter people voting for the right people in the first place. And again, that's probably an oversimplification. I don't mean for you to take my word verbatim, but what I'm trying to do is give you a sort of a sample mindset.
One thing I would ask you to maybe take notice of is that these systems that we talk about that are just inherently screwed up and they're just not right and we're just never getting them right, these are all things that are happening coercively and from the top down. So we don't sit around here and argue about the car system or the pizza system or the computer system, because those things are in the voluntary marketplace and people are incentivized to satisfy their customers. In the political realm, that's not the case. So we're forever going to politicians and begging them to do things one way or another, and even if they do what we say, those things are going to pertain to everybody and not be right for everybody. So we want those things to be as decentralized as possible.
Right. Well, education doesn't work like that, because education doesn't come from the bottom up; it comes from the top down.
Why not?
Because it comes from knowledge. Knowledge isn't gained by the masses; it's gained by the individual and then disseminated to the masses.
So there's no thirst for knowledge or anything until they end up in a government school? We need the...
That doesn't follow from what I said.
And it's also not what I said. I didn't say anything about government schools. I was just giving the example of the public school system.
Right. And it's
the public school
inherently
system is part of the education
one thing
system,
we can
and
agree about
by
is that it
definition,
sucks.
knowledge
Yeah.
needs to come from the top. I mean, that's how science works.
I don't agree with that.
Works.
I think there are many cases in which science has actually been very much against what has come from the top. Look at Galileo. Look at any number of scientists. Look at scientists who actually challenge the conventional wisdom and the conventional authorities. Come on, what do you mean? Excuse me.
That doesn't make any sense at all, Jeff. If you're going to cite Galileo as somebody who went against the consensus because the scientific consensus
he went against the religious consensus. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay, and that means what?
Well, that was the religious political consensus.
And that means what exactly in the modern world and the Empire of America?
What I thought we were talking about.
No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about necessarily science having to come from people like Galileo that forged the way.
But Galileo came from the ground up. He was not a product of the political establishment.
He was educated. He was educated at institutions. He was a mathematician. He was a philosopher.
And he was very much at odds with all of them, and that's where great wisdom comes from. So we don't need politicians deciding which science should be or religion.
It comes from institutions. It comes from institutions called universities. That's where Galileo learned to expand upon science.
But he was very much oppressed by religious institutions and the political institutions.
And that means what, Jeff? That doesn't mean anything to the.
It means that it doesn't come from the top down.
Same thing is going on today, man. But that's still how we glean knowledge. Same circumstances
from the
today.
top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know. I'm not saying that.
Specific example, Jeff, where your free market economics cannot work. It just cannot work, and shows me more than ever that socialism has to be the way forward for humanity.
Really? Can you? I don't know how to answer that. So you're saying.
There's no way that free market economics can provide educational institutions, okay, which are there for a non-profit benefit. I mean, that's how free market economics works. If there's no profit incentive, nobody's going to do it.
But we're all sitting here talking about how how these government schools should be something other than what they are now. So, and yet you want to propose that they're a success in some way. I don't understand that.
Yeah. Well, as I say, education necessarily has to come from the top down.
Okay, I know you said that, but you're saying that education. Everybody here is saying that education ought to be something different from what it is now, but you're saying that it's a big success nonetheless. It's not.
I'm saying the education system, the institutions that we've developed, are a success. Okay, they may need.
By what standard?
Literacy rate, dude. Look at the literacy rate.
By what standard are you claiming that success?
Are you serious, Jeff? What was the literacy rate 100 years ago? What is it today?
100 years ago, we had government schools, so I don't know. It's probably,
but look at the.
It probably was higher than it is today.
It's a lot higher, man.
I'm sorry, it was probably higher.
How many people do you know that can't read?
I know
it was a common occurrence 100 years ago.
Okay, well, you take the Detroit school system or the Cleveland school system.
We're not going to use Detroit. We're not going to go individualistic.
Well, why not?
In general, the United States school systems have increased the literacy level, and the general education level of the citizenry over the past 100 years amazingly, dude.
100 years ago? No, I think you would find the literacy rates would be much higher. I would think you would find there were public schools back then. So.
I guarantee you, because of the infant mortality rate, literacy rates would be lower.
They were way lower, Jeff.
Well, because more people were dead, but per capita. So per capita, yes, dead people are not more literate than.
No, the people that are alive are younger. Okay, that's the thing. We have a lower age population.
I don't have those numbers, but I think you would find that people in high school actually studied more literature and stuff like that. People read Dickens and stuff like that, and And today you look at numerous inner cities, not just Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, any of them. You look at they barely can fill out a job application.
I think Dickens sucks, personally, and I don't dream of a day when we.
What does that have to do with it?
It's a big disconnect with reality, Jeff.
I mean, it's old times are better. That's basically what I'm hearing. Everything old time was better. That's necessarily how it is, and the education system.
Slavery wasn't better. I wouldn't say that.
The education
I wouldn't say that slavery was better or Jim Crow was better.
The education system that we've developed in the Western world is a success, but you only have to look at the internet, the improved life expectancy through hospitals. Every single area you can mention has improved in the last 100 years.
And what did public education have to do with the internet?
Oh, absolutely everything. Tim Berners-Lee.
Everything. Really?
Who do you think operated the technology and made the technology to allow it to happen? It was because of the education of the citizenry. You can't teach an uneducated man how to work a lathe. He has to be taught this.
Yeah, the guy that invented the internet protocols, he went to a comprehensive school.
I wouldn't associate all education with the government school system, but yes, people learned how to read. Okay, fair enough. Anyway.
Well, anyway, I pulled up a link, illiteracy rates, the stats from a government institution. In 1870, percentage of persons 14 years old and over who were illiterate, meaning unable to read or write in any language. So they give the numbers there from 1870 only to 1979. I don't know why. But it was 20% illiterate in 1870. And this slowly dropped to when up to in '79 was only 0.6%. What since '79? I don't know. I'll have to pull up those, but that's the first one that came up. As far as the government.
Sorry, could you just read that figure again to me? I didn't really understand.
That was beautiful, dude.
What you meant.
Yeah, 1870 was 20% illiterate for people, persons 14 years and older.
Yeah, I haven't looked at these numbers, so I don't know.
This is based on the U.S. Department of Commerce, Bureau of the Census, historical statistics of the United States, and then once it slowly decreased, when you got to like 1940, 2.9% to 1979, 0.6%, and then they. That rate, as well as in the black population, went down as well, from 79.9 in 1870 to 1.6%.
That's pretty conclusive. Education works. Public.
Oh, I'm an advocate of education. Absolutely.
Me too.
Everyone should be an advocate, unless you're a creationist.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the point, really, isn't it? Is this knowledge has to come from the top down? That's quite clear.
Okay, what I miss?
I don't know that that's quite clear, but I would accept. I would absolutely accept that education, that literacy, probably. People have more free time, and people have more time to study and stuff than they did when they had to live at a subsistence level. So it's quite possible that too could be a factor. We could attribute any number of things to those climbs in literacy, thanks to the.
It has to be through the education system, because.
For your conclusions to be sound, yes.
I think it would be fair to say technology definitely is.
I think technology helped hugely.
Yeah.
Children used to have to work and live agrarian, pretty subsistence lives, which I think we can thank capitalism that they don't have to live that way anymore. That we have machinery and we have inventions and stuff like that. So I don't think you can certainly, if you want to, you can have your pet ideology account for whatever you want to. But I think probably the reason more people have time to pursue intellectual endeavors also has to do with the fact that we have more free time, and that we have inventions and
Right. What, children
have
even
made
as
our
well?
Yes, children used to have to work on
Free
farms.
time than they used to?
Well, aren't you one of those people who talks about how terrible it was in the Dickensian times that there were children working in factories?
Oh,
They
yeah,
don't
for
have to
sure,
do that.
yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
have to do that anymore because of
Because
inventions.
government stepped in and said it's illegal.
No,
That's why.
because capitalism
We're
actually
quite happy
made
exploit. The companies were quite
capitalism
Come on,
happy
made
one
it
at a time,
exploiting.
guys. Come on, one at a time.
Sorry, the companies were quite
No,
happy
no.
exploiting Victorian children in order to make a quick buck. Yeah,
No. Well,
that's the fact of the
those
matter.
Victorian
That's
children
in
would have
the
had to work.
records.
Those
That's in
Victorian
the
children would
records.
have had to work on farms, and they weren't drafted to work in those corporations, but those actually were the best alternatives
Abe,
at those times as capitalism was in its infancy. But as
Abe.
it grew, we all could work fewer hours, and we didn't have to work on farms anymore.
So I want to talk about my Nike shoes.
Yes.
Is this related to the Empire Unraveling and economics?
Yes, okay. Did anyone get the hidden joke there? Did anyone? Or am I the only one?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I got that one. I like it.
Okay, all right, good. I was about to say it wasn't just because if it was just me, I would have said you all suck. Okay, I'm
I
done.
guess I suck. Yeah, I don't get. All right, the
Don't
Nike-
rate.
All right, the factories. Okay, gotcha.
It's amazing how a $5 shoe can cost you $150, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, pay for that advertising and the marketing. That's what
Capitalism.
you're
Yep.
paying for.
It's just like Beats Audio. They only spend $14 to make those headphones, but they sell for $400. Anyway, yeah. Point being, Nikes made by starving children in sweatshops. Thank you.
Thank you, Redline.
I think that's conclusive.
What is your point?
Humanity.
Because child labor is a definite casualty of capitalism. And if there's more empathy put into the monetary systems of most modern, Eastern or Western countries, or over the world, to be honest, because most of the child labor is happening in China and whatnot, and those types of countries. If people used empathy a little bit more instead of monetary greed, which capitalism is based on, we wouldn't have this bullshit to deal with, dude. And just the fact that you think that like it's not a good idea is disturbing to me, dude.
Is China a capitalist country? Is that?
I'm just saying, just in general, China's more capitalistic than the United States is.
No, China's moving towards capitalism.
It's been capitalistic for the past 30 years, dude.
No, it hasn't. I'm a little bit
How do
older
you
than
think
you.
it
I
got
just
so
I just like
big?
to point out, Jeff, that one of the points were that you said that this doesn't have to happen anymore, and in fact, child labor is in plague proportions around this world, and you just don't see it. And you think
I
that
was
it doesn't
talking
exist,
about it in the West.
and you
No,
think that it doesn't
does
exist,
happen in the
and you
East
think
where
that
there
it doesn't
isn't
exist
capitalism.
anymore.
No, I didn't say that. Well, you would love it that I said that, but I didn't say that. I said child labor was part of the Dickensian system in the West. It's not in the West anymore. Yes, unfortunately, the most of the world is even less free market than in the West, and yes, it still goes on. I didn't say that.
You said, and they don't have to do that anymore, quote unquote.
And well, in the West.
These
We
things
were
that we
talking
wear,
that
these
we-
Nike
I
shoes
wasn't-
and stuff, are made in China. They're made in everywhere else in the world. These things that we buy here in America are made from around the world. And,
Oh, yes,
and these
I want
companies
to-
are shipping out their labor to China and to other places.
Because they're
And the
less
people who are
free.
doing it
But
are
they have-
making all the money.
but
And
that's
the
not
rift
because-
the rift is growing.
That's not because they have more free markets than we do. They have less.
Okay, Jeff. You know everything that you have an answer to has an answer in economics, and you don't realize that
This
you
is an
are
economic
glossing
issue,
over
yes.
you are glossing over the realities that exist, like child labor, for example.
Yes, and economics will tell us that in a primitive society, child labor will be more in demand, and you don't want to have a primitive capitalistic society. You want to have a free society. So China,
Again,
unfortunately,
this is not a primitive society, and we are depending on a lot of products that come from places that are.
And you choose to buy them, though, Patrick, right?
Actually, I'm still wearing the 5-year-old sneakers that I bought, and they're not Nikes. They're New Balance. and they're
I'm
actually
sure
$30.
they're bought. I'm sure they're made in Indonesia or
I think
Taiwan
so. I
or
think you're
some.
right. I think you're right. At least they're not $150 sneakers.
Right. I don't
Um,
know what the child labor laws are like over there. I don't think any of us in this room can say that we don't buy something that is made in a country that is,
Right,
having
right.
child
That's my point.
labor.
That's my point, though.
Where the
My point
labor
is that we
where
have to buy
labor
this
isn't
stuff
as
because that's where it comes from.
blatant as it is here. Yes, of
Will-
course.
will you guys think I'm a piece of shit if I told you that I have a pair of Nikes on right now?
No. No.
No,
No,
I
absolutely
would not.
No, we have to buy these things because that's where they're made.
No, you don't have to. Well, if you think you're so,
Because we have to shoot,
well, why do you
clothe
have?
ourselves.
I
So-
bought them because they were nice shoes. Knowing, I'll tell you this. I knew buying these shoes that there is a really high chance that this was made by some starving children in some sweatshop with no AC. I still bought them though because they were nice shoes.
Right. So you don't
Okay,
care quite
no.
as much as you would like to
Okay.
No,
present to everyone else, and neither does Patrick. He
don't
got
Yeah,
them too.
shit, Reds.
It's kind of like actually seeing the cows getting slaughtered and then having to go buy a Big Mac. See, if I don't have to see the cows getting slaughtered, it makes it a lot easier to buy a Big Mac.
Okay, well then.
Right.
just-
I mean, I don't eat at fast food restaurants anymore, but that doesn't mean I don't go to the supermarket and buy my juicy steaks and pork chops and stuff either. So
Exactly.
yes, there is a disconnect, and
Right.
I'm guilty, and every time I see this stuff, I do feel guilty. But at the same time, I'm just trying to point out here that Jeff is like, oh, it doesn't exist anymore kind of attitude.
He didn't
Well,
say
yeah,
it doesn't
that's
exist.
that's a straw man. I didn't say
Yeah,
that. We were
he
talking.
didn't say it
You
doesn't
And
raised
we
it, Tom.
were talking in the
That's
context of child labor in Europe and in the U.S. and the West at that time. And no, I would not make the claim that it's not still happening in the East, and that's unfortunate. But there are less. They are developing countries, but they are not fully developed economically. And I'm sorry to say we're not either. But they're even less developed economically. And yes, unfortunately those factory jobs for young people are actually the most attractive options that they have. And even though you and I would find those conditions abhorrent, they're probably better than the subsistence kind of jobs that they might otherwise be dealt with, living on farms, working hand and mouth, all of these things. So, I would say, if you buy their shoes, even though you don't like their jobs and I don't like how they're working either, you're actually not helping them if you don't support the firms that are at least giving them those jobs, which are obviously on the face of it better than their other alternatives, unless they're slaves. Now if their nation states are actually enslaving them, that's a different matter entirely. But if in the context of their lives, these are the best things that they can do, you're actually harming them if you don't do business with them. You're telling the companies that they shouldn't do business in these areas, which will make them less well off than they are. Even,
that much I'll agree with you.
Yeah.
That's the sort of catch-22 of the whole thing.
Well, that is the catch-22.
But I wouldn't.
I'm glad you recognize that.
$150 sneakers either.
$150.
Well, it doesn't matter what you. Yeah.
In all fairness, my sneakers only cost about $80, but that's still too much in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's always this circular thing. It's always this catch-22. If you don't buy
They would cost twice as much if they were made here. Oh,
Not for a good pair of shoes, dude. Nice pair of good leather dress shoes run you $300 at least, dude.
What would the just price be, Redline?
Free, at least for me. Everything I want.
So you want
just give me
everybody
for
to be a
free, and that
slave.
would be just.
No, I mean, I pay.
But
The
that
New
would be-
Balance actually are the best feeling. My feet like New Balance, and a lot of older people seem to like them too because I see a lot of elderly people wearing New Balance, and they're like $20, $30, some dollars, which is a reasonable price for a pair of shoes. Unfortunately, I don't even have the $30 to buy myself a new pair. But the point is that it's not the Nikes anymore because I never liked the way they fit anyway, and they cost a lot more for no particular reason.
If they gave me an option like, hey, if you had a choice between this stuff, which was made by starving children, or this stuff, which is the same exact thing but made in America, of course I'm going to go for the American-made shit. But You know, it's kind of like, you know, go to Walmart and try to find an item made in America, and I guarantee you are going to be screwing around that store for a fucking hour,
But you
pulling your
wouldn't pay
hair
more
out.
even if it was made in, right? I mean,
And sometimes they have counterfeit stuff there
Right.
too.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
And so, yeah, well, I mean, except for like orange juice, that shit comes from Florida. But when it comes to well, OJ's pretty awesome.
Eggs, dude. Eggs are fresh, aren't they?
Let me ask you, Red. What would you probably if something was made in America, it's gonna cost more.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna cost more.
what kind of things would you be willing to pay more for, just because you know it's made in America?
Nothing.
Well, usually it goes around reliability of the product too. Craftsman, all my Craftsman tools. I try to buy Craftsman that's made in America, but they've been outsourcing their shit to Japan, and now I have ratchets that break on me somehow. I wonder how that happened. Also, another thing that I would buy.
You still guarantee their tools for life? They used to.
I think they do, but it's like, you know, I don't want to actually go through the process of having to bag the shit and send it off and then wait for my tool. I got stuff I gotta do in my driveway.
You're really inspiring. It's like, oh, I care about all these people, but I really don't want to go out of my way and.
Well, of course. I mean, I pull no punches. I am a piece of shit. I am a despicable, horrifying human being that's ugly as hell.
I told you before, Rez, you fucking whore piece of shit, you.
Exactly. So let's see. I'm a virgin and I'm a whore. How does that work? I don't know. That's what I've been told before.
And a hypocrite.
But yeah, so apparently the way it works is that even though they guarantee their tools for life, I don't actually want to have to send my shit back. So if I buy American stuff, I won't have to send it back, and it works. I have a 20-year-old pair of vice grips that still haven't stripped, and I put that son of a bitch
If that's true, that's a great reason to buy American stuff. But all these other stupid ass sociological idiocy, that's not.
It's usually
not American to if you buy something from an American because it's charity, that seems to me un-American from what I know about this American stuff. Well, if it's the best stuff, you should buy it.
Well, here's
hang on. I didn't say I'm buying it because I'm a patriot. No, if the Chinese make something better, of course I'm going to buy them. Just look at GoPro.
Well, here's the funny thing.
That's all I'm saying too.
Here's the funny thing. Like, two things. One, I'm sure that in China, their stuff that they use in their, lives and stuff is actually better than the stuff that they source out to, sell to America and stuff. That's number one. Number two is even when something is made in America, for example, the last job I had, our stuff was, I actually put the labels on, made in USA or made in America. And the fact is that because it was electronic devices, the electronic devices, the chips and things like that, some of them came from Israel, some of them came from, I forget where. They outsourced for the small parts. And if they're from Japan, it's fine because actually Japanese are some of the best, But the point is, it's not really made in America. It's the thing is put together, and I was one of the people putting this thing together, and it is America.
Yeah.
But the parts in it are from all over the world.
Yeah, my thing is that, to finish answering the question though, what would I buy? Tools would be one thing. Another thing that I would buy would be rims. For example, I just ordered a set of billet specialties which are made in America, but they're $325 a rim. So yeah, good. And another thing that I would buy is engineering, just automotive engineering. For example, Moser rears, LS1s, that kind of stuff. So all the stuff that needs to get shit done, sure, I would go to American-made stuff, but that's because most of those stuffs are made in America anyway, and they only come from American manufacturers. But if it's something like an iPod or a GoPro camera that can shoot in 4K, it's made in China. Do I give a shit? No, I don't. I'm getting that.
So you're a free trader. You're like me.
Yeah, if you are going to be...
So I'll buy the American thing if it's the best, but I'll buy the Chinese thing if I think it's the best. So
exactly.
That's all I'm saying.
Despite child labor or not, right?
Yeah, because
hey, we're all self-serving. We're all looking for
no,
the best deal
if
for our money.
No, if I thought it was... Wait a minute. Hold on. if I thought it was slave labor, that's a difference. Like if I thought there was coercion involved, that these people were corralled, yeah, that would be a criminal enterprise. I would not deal with them. But unfortunately, yeah, children have to work in developing nations just as they did when the U.S. was developing, when it was a second world nation. So there, no, I don't draw that line. But
it's
if
not like
it was a slave situation, I would draw the line.
Well, it's not like there's a video stapled to your shirt that says, "Look how this was made." You know, for example, it was like, you know, it's kind of like having to talk with your kid about sex. You want to know what the talk was for me? It was, "Son, don't knock her up," and that was the end of it. But when it came to my sister, it was like, "This is a picture of genital warts. Look at it. Look at it. I want you to look at it." And it was like, all right, honey, bring me the picture of the crabs. Look at it. I want you to look at it.
Nibble it.
Yes, exactly. Now I'm going to staple this to your frame, and you are going to look at it every single day of your life. Like if it's shoved in your face like that, then sure, I'll back away from it. Just like I would probably back away from McDonald's if they were slaughtering the cows right there, you know, right behind the register as soon as you placed your order. But you know, if there is that disconnect, I usually don't think about it, and I'm honest enough to say that. Yeah, I'm hungry too now. I should go,
So where are we?
McDonald's.
All right.
Well, this was a nice conversation.
Yeah, you got me.
Yeah, so
You made me drift, Rick. For some, I don't know. I was drifting off.
Yeah, it was okay. Conclusion: I buy American stuff if it's the best. I'll buy the Chinese stuff if it's the best. Period.
Amen, brother. We agree.
Amen and amen.
Yes.
Even if you know that Chinese company is having underage kids or whatever working in a factory, sweat factory.
I mean, if there's that disconnect and I don't know about it, then yeah, I'll still buy it. But if it's like, if I do know about, like if I'm consciously aware of it, I may shy away from it, but most likely I won't, because
actually,
I'm a self-serving piece of shit.
What about stuff that's not made?
Blind dog.
What do you mean by underage workers? I actually think in the U.S. I think it's a terrible crime that kids who are 13 or 14 can't have a second job or work. So it depends what you mean by underage
14,
workers.
you can have a job. 14. I mean,
That's really hard in the U.S. to get
Isn't
a
it
job.
16 now, dude?
Yeah, it's 16. It's
You have to have
really,
16 with a work permit through school or something like that.
Yeah, it's really
It's
horrendous.
some stupid shit like that. I just ignored it. It was like, son, do you know why I call it an allowance? Because if you called it a wage, you break child labor laws. Exactly.
So if I knew that there was a 12 or 13-year-old kid working on something, no, that would not be a deal breaker for me.
It's a condition in which they're working. For example, if you're giving a kid a job and he's working and he's making these things, but he's not being treated like a piece of crap, then yeah, put his ass to work. He's got to learn this shit.
I don't know how everybody's being treated on the job. Come on, do you know?
Of course,
I worked for
that's
someone when
my
I was
point.
14.
That's my point. I do not know, and so I just follow, my baseline, and my baseline is I'm a selfish piece of shit. I want these Nikes, therefore give me.
What are you supposed to do? Mop up after God and save the world? I mean, gee whiz, just buy the shoe.
Damn.
I mean, if I was
You
to mop
people
up
don't
after
do.
God, I would need a
guys
pretty
don't
big
do
mop.
this any more than the man on the moon. It's like you buy stuff from another country, and yes, there might be younger people working on these products, but you don't know what the hell's going on. You're trying to save the world, or we're trying to do commerce, and they have jobs, and if you don't buy from them and they lose their jobs, they're not going to be better off.
Yeah,
I'll give you a couple of examples of things that are not made here. Like, when I was working, again, I bought a couple of things. One was this computer, another was my telescope. Now, the optics and everything are great, but the tripod had inferior hardware on it. The damn thread of the screw wasn't even threaded properly, and I got a whole new leg back from. I mean, they were graceful enough to just send me the extra tripod leg for nothing. But the point is that these things are poorly manufactured, and I don't think the optics are. The optics of the telescope are probably fine, but they are made in China. And
That's
I
not a
don't think
principled
there's an
argument.
American company that makes these things unless you pay $500 just for a tripod.
But that's not a principled argument. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have bought it. It just means
No, I'm not saying
you bought a crappy product.
No, Jeff, stop changing my words. I'm saying that there are things that are simply either not made here, or if they are, they're so exuberantly more expensive that you couldn't buy it anyway. So if I were to buy this $300 telescope that I bought,
so you bought the cheap one.
If it was made here, which I don't know of any manufacturers here, but if it was made here, it would cost 3 times as much.
Right.
Mm.
Okay.
Buy it if it's good. It doesn't matter where it's from.
Yeah, if somebody has something good to sell you, it shouldn't matter where they were born or how old they are.
You know, I follow the Red Line Bible. It's basically one page. It basically says don't be a dick.
Yeah, that's a good rule. I like.
And underneath that in parentheses it says to the best of your abilities.
Right.
So with me, like if I knew, like if it was slammed in my face that if I bought this stuff it's going to cause harm to somebody, then of course I'll probably shy away from it.
Right,
but
right.
I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking I want Nikes. It's there. I have money. Gimme.
Right.
Gimme.
But bottom line,
I am the Lord
moral
your
lesson.
God. Thou shalt not be a dick.
Best of your
Another
abilities.
example would be.
All right, I'm heading out. Talk to you later.
Peace
Jeff,
out.
hey Jeff, thanks for stopping by. Always,
Yeah, it was fun. Enjoyed it. Take care.
Take care, man.
Another example would be audio stereo equipment. The majority of the stuff that the average consumer buys from Best Buys and other electronic stores is your Japanese made. Now Japanese stereos and stuff are great. There are high-end American-made amplifiers and things like this, and they are amazing machines, but they cost a lot of money.
Yeah, it's like at
still
that
buying
point
fake
I
video
feel.
Stuff like that,
Yeah, I think at one point it's just like Beats. You'll end up paying for the name.
Oh yeah, that's what you're paying for the advertising and the marketing. Yeah, with Beats and they push those headphones through. You see them on like you watch shows like The Voice and American Idol and all the they're pushing it and yeah.
Of course, that's how they make their money. And I tried their headphones. Their headphones suck.
That's what I was hearing. They're not as good as they're propped up to be.
I'll tell you what I bought, and they are the best set of headphones I have. I'm wearing them right now. It is the $130 pair of Bose. That's all it is. $130. Hang on, let me take this off.
Feels so right.
I had a $20 or $30 pair of Koss from 20, 30, 40, 30 years ago.
Oh man, I remember those headphones years ago.
They're the best.
The big cups.
Well, no, these are the air vented back type, and the bass comes through like amazing. I'm sure that they don't sound like they used to by now, but yeah.
I do know for a fact that stereo receivers do not sound the same now that they did 40 years ago, 30 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Junk now, dude.
Oh, you know what? My friend he wanted to get rid of stuff for his house. He actually gave me his receiver and CD player, but the receiver I'm really looking is from the 70s. I haven't plugged it in yet, but yeah, those babies.
Heavy, man.
Yeah, heavy. But
they
kicked the ass. They kicked ass. So.
Yeah, I almost forgot. Another thing that I would buy that's American made is my guns, my firearms.
That's right, sir.
Yep.
American-made hookers. I endorse American-made hookers.
American-made hookers. We ain't just any hookers. We are American-made hookers. Well, no, the Filipino hookers are
Born and made hookers in the U.S.
Yes.
So do you guys think prostitution should be decriminalized?
Hells yeah.
Oh, I'm talking to four of the guys in the room.
It still happens either way, dude.
I plead the fifth.
Yeah, it's just like the marijuana debate. My thing is like I endorse I endorse people getting a hooker license. Congratulations, you have now got your hooker license, and everyone will have a party and hugging and crying and stuff like that.
Dude, they can regulate it, dude. It can be a regulated business where people are clean and there's no sorts of drugs involved and there's no other, seedy societal type of people. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, they do that. In other
How
countries
about
already.
this? How about this? Go for a hooker college, and just
Hooker University.
Hooker University, where we treat you how the fuck right.
Hey,
I'd
Jim.
like to train there. Yes, be a
Yes.
trainer or a
Yes,
professor.
be a
If you
trainer.
want to get, if you want to get invented, name the place You Hooker You.
Hooker you.
You.
It'll be great, and oh, just imagine what their mascot would be. I could get in a lot of trouble with that.
Hey, wait a minute, we're still alive here.
We're still on. Yeah.
Oh, my reputation. Oh.
Okay. If anyone in any position of power is listening to this, make that a thing. Make that a thing right now.
Make it so.
For the people.
Coordinates set.
For the old guys with the spare
Think of all
time.
that tax money.
Yes, yes.
Imagine how much our economy will be springing back to life.
Popping forth with production.
Yes. You could kind of say the amount of flow the amount of flowing money coming back into our system would have been orgasmic.
Just it could get sticky fast though. It has
Yes.
to
Just
be
keep throwing those puns out there.
Yes.
Whew.
So make that a thing, person in a position of power, whoever you are. Yeah, let's
Well,
see.
at this time, I'm going to take this sucker off air.
kill it, John.
We got a few viewers out there. Link is in the event page. Hey, come in. We're still going on off air. But, yeah, I'm going to close this edition of The Empire Is Unraveling.